Well, Gerald, you went to Suns practice yesterday. You went to Suns practice today.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting good news, you guys. Bradley Beal is available tomorrow to play in this game. Now, will he, won't he? I suppose that remains to be seen. I think we're going to talk through some potential options that we would maybe like to see if we were in charge of the Suns. But this is great news as a whole.
It is. Like, Beal has been a full participant in practice the last couple days. Today was a non-contact day, so there wasn't a ton that was done. But they liked the way that he responded to a full practice yesterday, which is good news because as we know with the back, it's all about progressing, seeing how much you can push, and then seeing how you respond to that. And so we're heading into Tuesday's game with him being available and set to make his return, assuming there are no last-minute setbacks, which, you know, based on what we've seen with KD's home debut and with the debut we thought of the big three a couple weeks ago, we're going to wait until we actually see it on the court, but it's supposed to happen now.
Knock on wood, touch metal, whatever you think.
Yes. 100%.
I love it because we'd been talking about how he was doing really good behind the scenes. And, you know, there was from my understanding, there was a 4 to 6 week window. And so the fact that they're right at, I mean, you're talking about 4 weeks. You're talking about less than 4 weeks, actually. Now, that's important because when you're dealing with a back injury, if you had a substantial issue, you would absolutely try to push towards the tail end of that timeline. The fact that he's coming back at this point makes me feel really good that they got it under control and that some of the concerns people may have about structural damage is probably not prevalent at this point. So really good for Brad Beal, happy for him, and it's exciting because I don't think we saw this coming on Friday.
Yeah, what I liked about what he had to say at practice, and I know Dwayne Rankin over at the Republic brought it up, but asking him kind of what was wrong, he said, look, it wasn't just a strain, so he admitted that. But then he also talked about earlier in that how his teammates were part of the reason why he decided not to try to come back. Like, it sounded like if he had it his way, he would have pushed to come back a lot sooner. Not that we've ever heard anybody do that before. But I found it interesting that he said, hey, guys like Book, KD saying, get good, we got this. That makes me feel a little bit better too, because everybody's like, oh, Bradley Beal, is he load managing himself? Is he doing that? Whatever. No, his teammates said, you get right. Don't force yourself back. Get 100% and then come back. And I like that. That's good support. And where other guys, or when he was in Washington, he may not have had that option because he was the only guy.
Right.
Sure. And that's one thing that kind of shone through is his frustration, because he's heard what people have said about this, you know, him being sidelined and how frustrating it is to be injured. And he was saying, you know, the last time that we talked to him after that last game that he played in, when he played through the second half, he said he probably shouldn't have because A, he hurt the team, and B, he made it worse. But hearing from all of his teammates was really beneficial to him. And you alluded to it, Espo, so let's go ahead and play that video of what he had to say about his son's teammate support.
A lot, you know, because honestly, I probably would have played and been hard-headed probably through the process if I didn't listen to my teammates. You know, I think they more or less gave me more confidence and just kind of made me feel better about the situation. Like, it sucks to be hurt. Like, nobody wants to be hurt, and especially when you're somebody who they look at you to help contribute to the success of the team, you know. So I hate to be in that position, but to hear it from Kay and hear it from Book, you're like, you know, take your time, make sure you're 100%. Like, we got it. We have more than enough to stay afloat and push this thing to where we want to go. We need you, you know, down the stretch. And so, like, that made me feel awesome every single day. It frustrated me, but because I wanted to be out there super bad, and I wanted to be out there with them. But more than anything, man, it just speaks volumes of them, of their character, and just their mindset when it comes to us as players.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the support of your teammates is huge because it allows you to comfortably work through whatever issues you're dealing with without feeling like you have to rush to get back and then potentially making things worse. in the long run. And then also, I think it does kind of speak to just the nature of this team as a whole, right? Like, they may not have had the opportunity to build chemistry on the court together and figure out how they're going to play with one another, but they're building chemistry to an extent from a relationship standpoint. And that's just as important.
Yeah, and I mean, the patience aspect is huge because we came into the season saying this ad nauseum, like we need them healthy for the playoffs. That's what this team's ceiling is. Obviously, we need them to build continuity during the regular season, but as long as they're healthy for the playoffs, we've got a shot against anyone in a 7-game series. And as a fan base, it can be easy to lose sight of that when guys are continually missing games, when losses are starting to pile up. But these guys have kept their eye on the prize. And like Book and KD obviously want Beal out there, but for them to say, like, no, take your time. We got this. We're going to keep the team afloat. In the meantime, like, that's huge because Beal had tried to play through the injury before and made it worse. He had said again just there that he would probably play through it if not for them telling him to take his time. So that's really important, and that's huge because as much as we have gotten in this tunnel vision of like, when are they going to play? Yeah. These guys are still seeing the bigger picture of like, we just need to be healthy at the right time of year.
I want to defend the fan base a little bit because there's been some talk about them being impatient, and I get that. But there's a reason, and I've said this before, that fan is short for fanatical. It's not about sitting there and thinking logically when it comes to that as a fan. What is going on is the greatest fear of the group was starting to feel like it was being realized because all we heard was you just put together a bunch of injured guys and that this team is not capable of staying healthy, so it won't matter. You're not going to win a title, right? Mm-hmm. So you hear that all off season, and then it comes to fruition at the beginning of the year, and that gets in people's heads, and that causes concern for the average fan because in the end, all they want is to see this team win a title. It's all that fans that have been around this team have wanted for 55 years. And one way or another, at different times, things have happened to be roadblocks in that. Whether you want to call it a curse, whether you want to just say it's bad luck, whatever the case may be, the factual reality of it is that something has always come in the way of this team reaching that. So I think this was all fear-based in terms of this is coming to fruition, what people said was going to cost an opportunity to the title, but the players haven't had that mindset. They've made it very clear that their focus is on winning, right? And that whatever it takes to get to that point and be able to sustain winning long-term is what they care about. And they know, and that's why they did say to Beal, get 100% healthy. Right. It's why Book stayed out, when he was hurt earlier, even though he came back at one point. It's part of that. It's why KD sat out after rolling his ankle the other night, because they understand that all that really matters to them is completing the job. And it's not the fans' job to think like that. That's the players' job. It's the front office's job. The fans are supposed to bring the passion, are supposed to care, are supposed to bring the energy about it. And it came out as nervous energy over the last month, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I agree with you to a certain extent. I will never advocate for throwing logic out the window because of fandom, but my thing is, and I've said this from the start, I get being nervous about the injury thing because, like you said, all summer it was, they're the Nets 2.0, and it was all this stuff, and you start to see that happening. And with back injuries, because of the nature of them, you get concerned about them. My thing was the selection of fans, and this is not the whole fan base, the selection of fans that want to trade every single player, that want to fire Vogel in mid-December, that want to like blow it all up, that are saying, this was a terrible trade. Why did we trade? Checks math, Chris Paul and Landry Shamet for an all-star. Like, those were the things where I drew the line. And I do think even as a fan, you still can approach things with an ounce of logic without devolving into paranoia, shame, fear, like it's all over, that type of thing.
Yeah, but we're paid to
That's
sit
not
here
fun,
and,
Gerald.
But we're paid to sit here and analyze and think through it. Some people just use this as the way to detach from their own life. And I think that a lot of that is blowing off steam about whatever's going on in their world.
Well, yeah, because this is the thing that brings you joy. This is your your hobby, if you will, outside of the day to day. So I get it.
And
Being
it's the town
upset when
It's the outlet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the way people decompress, right?
exactly,
They
and
got
when the
their
thing
9 to
that you
5.
turn to decompress brings you more stress.
That's right. No, it can get
It
chaotic.
gets a little
Yeah, it can get a little crazy.
stressful.
I think y'all all make great points. I mean, I think there's a part of the fan base that you talked about that was nervous. You're hearing Brooklyn 2.0, but I also feel like Gerald's point to the logic. Look at Brooklyn 2.0. You had KD coming missing a whole season due to an Achilles tear. And then people keep bringing up, well, they played 17 games together. Well, they were in a pandemic year and somebody didn't get vaccinated. Right? So if you start to kind of logically piece it together, there was a really good reason why that number was 17. Right? There were injuries in between, but there were some circumstances that were way beyond the norm that made that number so low. And to go like to Brooklyn 2.0 after 20 games always felt a little strange to me, you know, but I see both sides. There are a part of the fan base that's like, man, I just want these guys healthy because I decompress and it's my outlet. And then there's a side that kind of goes overboard. But I'm glad we're getting to the point where Brad Beal has good enough teammates and the organization that he can actually, that's rare. Like in this business, you know, there's so much pressure with the amount of money these guys are making to play basketball. And especially in this town with the big three, I couldn't imagine the amount of stress that Brad was under at home. Just probably laying in bed staring at the wall like, man, this thing's caving in, right? But I got KD, I got Book, I got the coaching staff, I got ownership, I got the GMs, I got the front office, the trainers. Everybody's saying, do the right thing by you, we'll be okay. That's pretty damn cool, and I'm glad that hopefully tomorrow we take a step in the direction of getting all this solved.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're not the only ones that know what Bradley Beal makes and think, oh, you're not living up to it. You don't think he thinks that when that's going on? You don't think he thinks, I came here to try to help win a title and I'm not doing that right now?
Yeah.
I think that's the part that's really lost in the human element. I think that's what bothers me the most when the logic starts to go out the window, is the fact that these guys are human goes out the window too.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. But I've heard some really egregious things about Suns fans over the last day or two, and I just wanted to stand up for them a little bit in it too. But I agree with you. There's got to be some logic, but I also understand, a sense of panic in certain
Yeah, for sure.